We are bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is STORYCON. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Lingao. Some stories we're watching this Monday, October 14. The Senate Committee on Women has requested the appearance of Pastor Apollo Quiboloy in a public hearing on October 23. The hearing, to be led by Senator Risa Ontiveros, will tackle cases involving the Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder. Quiboloy is currently detained at Camp Crame in Quezon City while facing charges of human trafficking and child and sexual abuse. The Ombudsman junks admin cases or admin charges against former Health Secretary Francisco Duque III. This is related to the alleged corruption in the procurement or the buying of pandemic response supplies from Pharmaly Corporation in 2020. The Ombudsman says it is no longer relevant to hold Duque accountable for the cases since his term has long ended. He was initially found guilty of misconduct and gross neglect of duty.
A recent OCTA survey showed a slight increase in pro-Marcos sentiment, with 38% of respondents identifying as such. This is a 2% increase from March of 2024. Meantime, support for the Duterte family saw a 1% decrease at 15%. 26% do not align with any political group, while 7% support the opposition and 14% are undecided. Of course, I have to add that the margin of error in this survey is
3% plus or minus.
So when you talk about a 2% increase or 1% increase, it's within the margin of error.
Yeah, pero may point dyan ng OCTA na you don't look at the numbers, you look at the trend in the last three surveys.
So it's the same.
Well, pareho silang ano eh. I think even in the previous survey, halos insignificant yung number. Pero the fact is that it's a trend already, going up or going down.
No matter how slight. Okay. And anyway, an increase in the prices of fuel products takes effect tomorrow, October 15, and it's a big one. Diesel will become more expensive by 2 pesos and 70 centavos per liter. Gasoline by 2 pesos and 65 centavos. And kerosene by 2 pesos and 60 centavos per 60 centavos. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Bok, here you go. Joining us today, STORYCON's resident political pundit, Tito Ronald Llamas, via Zoom. Dahil po, siya po ay tinablan ng mikrobyo.
Parang hindi naman nilalagnat. Sa ngiti, parang hindi nilalagnat.
Tinatablan ka pala ng mikrobyo.
Parang may nagpakulam yata sa akin.
Ayun.
Parang may nagpakulam. Sino kaya yun?
Sino kaya? Baka naman kasi meron kang ginalit nung nakarang linggo.
Oo, dami mo inaaway eh.
Wala.
Dinedepensahan ko lang naman si Ed Lingao.
Oh,
no?
Okay. Also joining us is Ana Marie. Okay.
Wala si Amy.
But also joining us, nawala lang sa Zoom right now, no? Also joining us is Amy Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star.
From faraway Parañaque.
Yes, in their spanking new office.
Qualify ko lang. Well, actually, more of a correction eh. Hindi siya 2% increase or decrease. Hindi siya 2% increase. 2 percentage points. Increase.
Yes. Iba yung percentage, iba yung points.
Percentage, iba yung points eh. Duterte is down by 1 percentage point.
Yes.
And independent...
Not by, but in points.
Down by. Pero hindi siya percentage
so
points.
It's even more insignificant.
Hindi. Well, kasi kung percent is a percent of the original. Percentage point is simply the numerical movement.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So in other words, yung increase ng BBM is from 38, from 37 naging 36. 36 naging 38. 2 percentage points yun.
2 percentage points. Still within the margin of error.
Not 3%.
Okay. But safe to say, it stays the same. Which is, the way OCTA reads it, it's still a trend from the last 2 quarters na nadadagdagan no matter how small it's
si Amy is there na. Pero Ronald, lakas mo ng konti boses mo ha. Medyo mahina ka. Si Tita Amy is there.
Nabawasan yung independence, yung neither Duterte nor Marcos. Dati kasi 31% yan eh. Ngayon ay 26 na lang.
26%, down by 5 percentage points.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tapos yung tumaas yung undecided. from 11 to 14.
Yung ambivalent sila.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yung
That's
undecided.
a more discernible movement, right, Ronald?
Yes,
Mga
yes.
4 points. Right.
Tapos yung
So dumadami.
yung mga pinklawan, tumaas yata ng 2
2 percentage points. So, Bok, batiin natin si Tita Ami.
Hi, Ami.
Happy Monday, Ronald, Patrick and Ed.
Yeah,
Ano ba yan? Pula ba yan o? Pula ba yan o orange?
Pula yan.
Pula.
Oo. Wala kinalaman. It's always a good
Pula
color
yan.
for on-cam. Yan, ang pula.
Ah.
A red jacket. Hindi yan political. But anyway, Ami,
wala.
what do we have on the Philippine Star? Anong naka-layout dyan para for tomorrow's paper?
Hinihintay namin yung reaction pa ni former Senator Gordon doon sa dismissal nga nung case against
Okay, Duque.
yung sa family, yung kay Duque. And nagsalita si Senator Bong Go, sabi niya,
Yes, oo.
well, he is denying, of course, na merong reward system and he emphasizes na meron daw malaking suporta yung war on drugs ni President Duterte.
From the public.
So, tinitingnan natin. Yes.
Yes, from the public.
Malaki daw yung public support. Ano masasabi mo doon, Ronald?
Noon, yung latest Pulse Asia, 84% ang nagsasabi na dapat ay parusahan yung involved dyan sa EJK. Sa Pulse Asia, 84% nationwide, 94% sa NCR, tapos 1% lang ang nagdi-disagree. 13% ang undecided. 1% ang nagdi-disagree. Baka yun ang sinasabi ni Senator Bato, yung 1%.
Okay.
Hindi si Senator Bato, si Senator Bongo.
Senator
Senator
Bongo.
Si Senator Bongo.
Parang ang laki ng...
Saka remember, even during that time of President Duterte, nung bandang later na, nagkaroon din ng survey dyan yung support nga for his brand of crackdown on drugs. At di ba karamihan doon sa mga tao, sabi nila ayaw pinapatay. Ayaw nilang pinapatay yung mga suspect. Merong ganong mga surveys na lumabas noon. Kaya medyo nag-slow down din sila doon sa doon sa mga patayan, medyo nag-slow down.
But it says a lot about surveys, and how respondents answered these surveys. At the peak of the Duterte administration, there was, Ronald, there seemed to be all-out support for the drug war.
Alam mo,
Pero ngayon, iba na.
I remember,
93%.
Right.
First year ni Duterte, if I post anything remotely about human rights, talagang kukuyugin ka talaga. And now, the numbers appear to be different now. So,
Nagbigay nga ng criticism si Laila de Lima noong 2018. Ang tawag sa kanya ni then Secretary of Foreign Affairs Alan Peter Cayetano, ang tawag kay Laila DDS, destabilizer, denier, etc.
Ano yung
Siya
S?
ang tinawag ni Alan Peter na DDS, si Laila de Lima daw. Paano, nung nagsalita sa UNC si Secretary Alan Peter, sabi niya, we are only salvaging the country. Sabi niya, yun ang ginamit ng word. We are only salvaging the country. We are defending the human rights of Filipinos.
Did he use the word salvaging, Ronald? Kasi that seems to be...
may ibig
medyo
sabihin salvaging.
Especially in the context of EJK.
We are
Well,
salvaging
sa panahon
the
natin yun,
country.
sa panahon ngayon, hindi lang nagigets yan.
Hindi, I'm sure sinadya yun ni Alan Peter. Sinadya ni Alan Peter. Choice of word niya. Sinadya
Mahilig
yun.
sa ganun, di ba? Di ba, Ami, mahilig sa kanya, no?
Teka, paliwanag mo yung konteksto ng word na salvage doon sa lumang konteksto. Kasi marami mga bata, hindi naintindihan siguro yan eh.
Ikaw na, Bok. Alam mo yan, panahon ng Marcelo, pag sinabing salvage,
Oo, dinampot ka, dinedball ka, tapos tinapon ka lang.
tinapon ka, usually sa water, kaya salvaging.
Oo.
Yung act of salvaging is the act of retrieving the dead body na biktima ng EJK. That was... So salvaging
So, pag
actually
sinabing
became
salvaging ka,
synonymous to killings.
It's
Nung
not
police
to
reporter pa ako, at matagal na yon, inaamin ko, kapag ikaw sinalvage, madalas nilalagay ka sa drum at lalagyan ng simento yung drum
Yun.
at itatapon dun sa bay.
Sa Manila Bay.
Yun yung salvaging.
Mas matindi naman yan. Mas matindi naman yan.
Yan yung panahon pa yan na first Marcos administration ginagawa yan.
Pero major effort yun. Yun yung mga talagang ayaw
Oo.
nilang pakita.
Yung ayaw na makita talaga.
Yung usual salvaging, tinatapon lang dyan sa battery.
Tinatapon lang.
Dyan sa
Oo, tinatapon lang.
Duha, tinatapon dyan sa
Sa
Commonwealth.
dagat-dagatan.
Oo, dahil dati,
Dagat-dagatan,
puro-
marami
O
doon.
C5, banda ron, o Antipolo.
Oo, yun,
Tipid
yan.
sa semento.
Oo, marami doon.
Kasi semento pa inisip niya amin, tapos drum, tapos ibabarko
Hindi
mo
kasi
Pag-asos.
i-mention niya, kinukuha sa tubig eh. Yung kinukuha sa tubig, yun.
Right,
Yan
right.
nilalagay
Kaya
ng simento.
salvaging.
Pero kahit saan ka pwede itapon, actually pwede ka na maitapon anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
but I
Yan
wonder
yung
if
salvaging.
our producers have a clip of the ambush interview that was given a while ago by Senator Bong Go. Kasi it was quite ang sabi ni Senator Bong Go, he seemed very confident na
Wala.
he can face
No
the
reward
Senate,
system.
face an investigation, and para magkaalaman daw kung ano ang naidulot na, I think he used the word kabutihan, ng drug war.
Pero I think it's...
Actually, Patrick, kino-corroborate lang ni Garma yung mga sinabi ni Las Cañas, ni Matobato,
Right.
ni Asierto, ni
Espinido.
Espinido. So, kino-corroborate nila yung isa't isa, no? At
Yeah,
ang
but
kaibahan
Ronald,
lang-
this is mas mabigat ito dahil for the first time, Las Cañas and Matobato were
Yes.
more or less low-level enforcers.
Yes.
Garma,
Yes.
I think would
Garma.
belong to the inner
Inner
circle.
circle yan, oh.
To the inner
Yes.
circle, to the chain, talagang di ba?
Yes.
Pero mind you,
Tama.
I think we need to
Si
qualify
Espinido
lang.
is a poster boy.
I think we need to qualify lang.
Poster boy yan.
She was also very careful. She was also very careful not to say that it was extrajudicial killing.
Right.
She was very careful to just say na a task force was being formed or had been formed
Right.
in order to institute a reward system for killing
So yun ang role niya. Yun doon lang sa bigayan ng pera.
Kumbaga, parang, although by implication,
TJK
we know
yun.
naman the
TJK.
implication of that pero of course, legally, pwede siyang gumanon
Right.
Kasi she's not admitting.
And that's why she said sorry to the victims, to the families of the victims at that hearing. Sinabi niya, hindi niya alam na may mga mangyayaring
Saka medyo naghugas kamay siya, parang she's
Patrick, ang hindi na-emphasize doon masyado, yung mga bangko. Yung may 3 bangko siyang binanggit na dinadaanan ng pera. Diba? So dapat maimbestigahan din yung mga bangko na yon.
especially if it's beyond yung daily limit na kailangan mo i-report.
O yung normal transaction. Yun
Teka.
yung magti-trigger.
Pinagagap muna tayo dahil meron daw tayong commercial.
Impress ako Bilib ako May commercial na tayo
Ronald, balang araw magkakaroon ka ng kape. Okay, we'll be back.
Uy, we are honored dahil nandito si Patrick. No? Tagal na wala niya.
Medyo naging busy lang.
Itong ating boss pangkalawakan.
Ayun. Pandit pangkalawakan.
Pandit Canton.
Pandit Canton.
Kasi lahat ng sahog nasa lamesa.
Yan.
Ayan.
Lahat sasahugan.
Wait, teka, baka masita na tayo. You're watching STORYCON on One News. We'll be talking to our first guest right after a quick break. So please stay tuned.
This is the Story Conference Group or the StoryCon Group.
We've got developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to the Story Conference.
I'm Patrick Paez.
Kapalad Lingao. And with us,
Tuloy mo lang, Bob.
Amy Pamintuan, Philippine Star, and Tito Ronald Llamas, our political pundit. Ayan, ha? Okay.
Generic na generic.
naman eh.
Hindi ko na nga tinuloy. O teka, andyan ang guest natin. Oh, our first guest for this afternoon, human rights lawyer and former Bayan Muna Representative Neri Colmenares. Sir, magandang hapon and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Magandang hapon,
Hi, sir.
Ed. Hi, good afternoon po, Ed, Patrick, Ronald, Amy. Good afternoon po.
Nang hapon na Kong.
Sir, let me start
Yes.
with this. Kasi explosive, well, at least by appearances, explosive yung testimony ni GARMA nung Friday. Pero I'm just wondering legally, ano yung implication nun with what she said and what she's trying to show? Ano yung sabit legally doon o liability legally doon ng mga people that she named?
Kasi, malaki ang implication nun legally, lalo na sa pananagutin ni President Duterte. Ang for example, sa ICC, Crime Against Humanity, ang kanyang kaso ni President Duterte, there are two elements there. No? The first is widespread or systematic attack against civilians. Yan, proven na yon. No? Widespread yon mula pari hanggang hulo. Civilian naman yung pinapatay. Yung second element kasi ng Crime Against Humanity is knowledge of the attack. Ibig sabihin yung gumawa nun, alam niya na nag-a-atake siya. So ang proof niyan kay President Duterte were the public orders na kill, kill, kill. And yung second, yung public statements niya, yung in-encourage yung mga police, i-amnesty ko kayo, bahala ko sa inyo. So that's the second evidence, kumbaga, ng knowledge niya. But itong sinabi ni Colonel Garma, ayan ang nagtahi talaga. Kasi hindi lang pala siya nag-order ng kill. He ordered the initiation using the Davao Death Squad model. At pangalawa, yung siya ang nagpondo mismo. So that immediately changes everything. Kasi now, matutulog na talaga sa kanya ang EJK na to because not only did he order it, he even funded it. No? May reward for killings ng EJK. So medyo malaking bagay yung testimony ni Colonel Garma.
But how much credence do you give it? Kasi, for example, si Garma was very careful to avoid implicating herself. I mean, para sang Snow White.
Yeah. Well, pwede naman na hindi niya implicate yung sarili na. She can be charged later on kay General Barayuga in another case. But dito at least sinabi niya na inutusan siya initially na kausapin yung isang Colonel Leonardo in this case and then mag-put up ng structure at sinabi ni Leonardo sa kanya yung lahat ng nangyari, no? So she was aware of all this information, so malaking bagay din on the part of Colonel Garma na insider siya so yeah, it can be used doon sa ICC, in fact, yung sworn statement niya on the crime against humanity.
Kong, if
Pero
you're
Mr.
as a lawyer,
Colmenares, may mga nagsasabi ngayon na dahil lumalabas na anyway ang mga details na yan and people are coming out to talk, sabi nila hindi na daw kailangan ng ICC, bakit di na lang daw dito sa Pilipinas imbestigahan? What do you think of that proposal?
Mistaken kasi ang ICC is a criminal proceedings. Ang Quad is just an administrative proceeding. Walang makukulong sa Quad And here, ang kaso kasi dito sa Pilipinas, may kakaibang In fact, it was encapsulated by one of the victims. Tinanong siya, bakit hindi kayo nagkaso dito? Sabi niya, una po, mahirap lang kami. Pangalawa, hindi amin yung batas. Hindi sa aming panig yung batas. So, basically, ang problem dito kasi ngayon, ang mga kaanak ng biktima, una, hindi sila binigyan ng report ng police, ni mga blotters, SOCO reports, wala, blanco talaga yan. May isang witness doon sa Quad na ang sabi niya, ang anak niya, 9 years old, binaril sa kilikili. Nang lumabas ang death certificate, bronchopneumonia ang nilagay. So paano kami magkaso sa police hindi naman pala namatay sa EJK, sabihin ng korte, bronchopneumonia naman pala to Yung mga witnesses nila, 2017, 2018, medyo hindi ko alam kung mahanap pa nila yung sa ngayon. Kaya ang ICC nagsimula na yan 2017, 2018 ang investigasyon, mahaba na Yung korte ngayon pala magsisimula yan and I'm not too sure na maging advantageous at least sa ganitong kalagayan ng any court case against President Duterte, especially since marami pa rin officials sa gobyerno ang medyo sa kanya, loyal sa kanya sa ngayon.
Okay,
Noong 2021, nag-request si Solicitor General Guevara sa ICC. Nabigyan sila ng puwang para ipakita sa ICC na gumagana yung ating justice system. Binigyan sila ng almost a year. Wala ring nangyari. Walang nadagdag na kaso dun sa libo-libong pinapatay ng EJK. No?
Tama.
Ngayon, halos tapos na. Ngayon, halos tapos na yung ICC, no? Timing na lang para ipadala yung international warrant. Kaya medyo too late na dahil tapos na yung preliminary investigation.
okay, Kong, as a
Yes,
lawyer, if
patapos
you're going
na
to
rin yan. So-
if you're going to assess this case, this testimony of GARMA, Kong, as a lawyer, where would you put GARMA? Should she be a respondent in the ICC case, or is she better off as a witness in the ICC case?
As of now, based sa revelation niya, witness siya, siyempre, pwede siyang gamitin ng prosecutor. Ang ICC case kasi is reserved for the highest officials committing the most serious crimes against humanity. So ang target ng ICC, they don't really go for the lower, but kung kakayanin nila na presidente o prime minister or at the very least mga general, so doon sila. No? So for now, ang testimony niya can be of course submitted sa ICC and bahala ang prosecutor kung paano siya i-treat. Ang kakaiba lang dito, pwede naman siyang respondent din, pero at the same time, ang testimony niya pwede rin magamit siyempre ng prosecutor kahit na-respondent siya. So, depende yan sa prosecutor kung paano i-handle yan. But I think very important that, in fact, we're challenging President Marcos na isubmit nyo kaya sa ICC yung sworn statement. At very important na officially mabigay nyo sa ICC despite your pronouncements na ayaw nyo na mag-cooperate sa ICC because this is a major breakthrough naman yung nangyari kay Colonel Garma.
Kung ang sabi po ng DOJ, they're willing to investigate and do a preliminary investigation into the findings ng Quadcom if somebody files a complaint. So apparently hindi sila pwedeng motu proprio. I don't know why. But that's what they're saying eh. Dapat may magsampa muna ng kaso at doon lamang aandar ang gulong. What do you think of that? And is this on the table for you?
Di ba kung pwedeng motu proprio yan?
Yes, mali palagi. Mali palagi ang pulis diyan at ang mga DOJ na kailangan ng complainant. People of the Philippines nga yan.
Yeah,
Ang
people of the
complainant dyan
Philippines.
is just a witness. Ang complainant is just a witness. Kailangan sagot nila palagi, sino magtitestigo sa amin? That's another story. But you can file the complaint. Hindi pwedeng isasabihin nila na pag walang complainant, walang kaso, lalo na people of the Philippines na mag-prosecute. So, sa akin, pwede nang kasuhan yung ibang generals. For example, General De La Rosa for grave threats or grave coercion. Yung ginawa niya kay Kerwin Espinosa laban kay Senator De Lima. I mean, matindi 'yon, no? Kasi in fact, gusto kong i-add, itong Quadcom, it opened a new vista na hindi lang pala ito hinggil sa droga. Now, there are people pala na naging biktima ng drug war, pero wala silang kinalaman at all sa droga. At isa na doon si Senator Leila De Lima. Sinabing drug list, nakulong ng 7 taon, walang kinalaman sa droga. General Barayuga, ini-expose at ino-oppose lang ang korupsyon sa PCSO, walang kinalaman sa droga, pinatay under the drug war. Yung lawyers, nabanggit yun sa Quadcom, lawyers, walang kinalaman sa droga except they represented drug suspects, pinatay under the drug war. Human rights defenders, na kung saan wala naman silang sinabi except criticizing Duterte for the human rights violations sa drug war, pinatay din yung mga human rights defenders. So it exposes President Duterte na it's just not about drugs. Sabi niya, it's about the future of our children and the country. Pero no, you're using this against your opponents, your political opponents, and human rights defenders na kinikriticize ang policy mo. So, nagbago tuloy pati ang motivation dito in terms of si Duterte kasi nakipakita sa taong bayan, it wasn't really just about drugs. It was about also something else like oppressing or persecuting opposition leaders.
Congressman, iniimbestigahan na ng DOJ yung kay Wesley Barayuga. Ni-reopen na ng NBI their probe
Yes.
can take off from that case, di ba? Pwede naman kahit wala na mag-file ng complaint, para lang makuha yung testimony ni GARMA. Because she is
Yes.
implicated in that case, pwedeng DOJ, if they really want to investigate, pwede magsimula dun sa case na yun Ni-reopen na ng
pwede.
NBI actually. Di ba?
Yes. Ang Barayuga case, Ami, tama ka, it can start now. In fact, pwedeng may separate case lang yan against those responsible like Colonel Leonardo, kung sino man yung tinuro doon sa kasong yon, like Colonel Garma, of course. Because that's a separate matter. Pwede talaga yan. In fact, tingin ko, ang nagsumusuporta kay General Garma, malalakas naman na marami siyang mistay, marami siyang mga nagdidemand ng justice sa kanya. So yeah, it can prosper. Dito at least, yan ang kakaiba kumpara doon sa ibang mahihirap na EJK victims ng drug war. I think General Barayuga's case can really prosper, especially since proven na wala talaga siyang kinalaman sa droga. It's all about corruption in the PCSO, kaya siya pinatay.
Kung maliban dyan sa mga kaso na yan, baka may isa tayo nakakalimutan na malaking krimen din. Kahit mahirap sampahan ng kaso. Yung krimen na binanggit ni Colonel Espinido, na sabi niya na the biggest criminal organization is the Philippine National Police. Sabi ni Shell Jokno last week, Duterte has transformed the Philippine National Police into a killing machine. At sabi ng isang leader kahapon ng human rights ay this is the biggest serial killer in the history of our country. So, ibig sabihin na kung yung institusyon na winawasak ng ganitong klaseng programa ni ex-President Duterte is unmeasurable. Kahit walang kaso na pwedeng isama. Pero dapat laging ipamukha that our institutions were being destroyed. No? Yun yung hindi na pag-uusapan.
Tama lang, tama. In fact, pero matagal nang sinasabi ng human rights defenders yan At the time of Gloria Arroyo, libo rin yung EJK doon Ang mga biktima nga lang doon, aktivista, ang warning doon, ginamit yung at that time the state security forces for EJK, General Palparan and so on. But nobody really took that seriously kasi parang aktivista yan. Ngayon, later on, thousands nang pinatay sa EJK under Duterte. So that is a lesson. There are two lessons here na dapat sawatain itong mga paggamit ng kapulisan, state security forces, military for yung mga katulad na yung mga EJKs and forces appearances. Siguro, ang second lesson dito, pag nasa poder kayo, huwag kayong mag-abuso. Kasi there will come a time na abutin kayo ng hustisya And that's what's happening now. Kasi if you look at the Quadcom, the police were so, arrogant during the time of Duterte. Medyo marami sa kanila takot sa na maimbestiga doon So, yan talaga. They were so assured during the time of Duterte na walang mangyayari sa amin. Presidente ang nag-assure na walang mangyayari sa amin. And now, kahit si President Duterte cannot even assure na hindi siya makulong. So, that's a lesson na rin dito sa nangyari sa EJK kay President Duterte na sana huwag pamarisan ng mga susunod na mga presidente ng ating bansa.
Pero sir, sundutin ko naman from a different point of view or a different angle. I mean, well, it's good that yung Quadcom marami na uungkat na mga revelations that we would never have seen or heard from in the previous administration. But on the other hand, some are also pointing out that this is the same Congress that cheered on the drug war in the previous administration. More or less the same people. I mean, the faces do look familiar, and it is a change of tune by most of them. Of course, there were a few who were consistent from before, those who opposed the drug war in the lower chamber. But most of them cheered it on, and now that it's politically convenient, medyo gumanon.
Yes, correct ka dyan, Ed. Nung panahon ni Duterte, everybody was praising the drug war. Walang nagre-reklamo against China, sa Westfield. Ilan lang sa amin, ilan lang kami ang nagsasalita on that. Tapos ngayon biglang tapang-tapang na nila against China, etc. Ngayon may investigation. Pero siyempre, sunggaban pa rin yan ng mga pamilya ng biktima. whatever the background. Kasi this is just an opportunity na talaga may chance sila na isip nila na magkaroon ng linaw ang pagkamatay ng kaanak nila eh. So, yun pa rin ang kinaiba rin siyempre ng ng tawag dito ng ICC sa Quadcom because of course this is just a congressional investigation eh. So siyempre subject yan sa vagaries ng kung ano man yung ihip ng hangin. Kaya maganda talaga din na sa korte sana yan like the ICC. But in any case tama ka Ed na na another lesson siguro yan na pag you are a member of Congress or the Senate for that matter, checks and balance yan. Hindi kailangan sumunod ka sa presidente every time the president says so. Tsaka sa subordinates naman, mga cabinet member, if you think the president is wrong, it's your duty to the Filipino people to say that it's wrong. Pinamimigay sa China ang West Philippine Sea, tahimik ka lang. You're the NICA head, you're the security agency, National Security Agency head ka, tahimik ka. Di ba? Yung ganun sa PNP rin, mga PNP generals ng panahong yon, niwala kayong haniho doon sa drug war. So basically, that's a third lesson siguro na titigan nyo naman if you're in an appointed position, elected position, your role in the constitutional scheme of things na checks and balance ito. Hindi pwedeng payagan ng isang tao to rule over the country by whim and by arbitrary decisions. So, but still, despite that, magandang development ang Quad and many of the victims we're very happy that the Quad, in fact, the fact na nakapagkwento sila sa Quad, alam mo, pag tinatanong ko sila, tuwan-tuwa sila na at least lumabas. Kinikim-kim nila yan for so many years. At sa ngayon, nailabas nila at na-confront nila ang mga police officers na tingin nila, pumatay sa kaanak nila, na-confront nila at hindi makasagot sa kanila. At in the end, very, very important development itong Quad hearings and I hope ituloy pa nila.
Pero just 3 months ago, Neri, yung mga senador na nag-iimbestiga, sinisisi pa yung mga biktima. Bakit daw hindi sila nagsampa ng kaso noon? Sinisisi pa yung mga abogado, no? Kaya medyo uminit yung ulo ko nung pinapanood ko yun eh. No?
Yeah, well, ganoon lang talaga. Kaya ang fourth lesson siguro dyan, pumili na mabuting senador. Hindi yung depende sa, di ba? In any case, nandyan na tayo and I hope na ang Senate rin, of course, can also take up the cudgels of EJK, no? So, yeah, basta the Quadcom is doing well as far as the victims are concerned, ituloy lang nila at maungkat pa. Sana naman, ito yung there is a new vista opened by the Quadcom. Yung sinabi kong mga pinatay, na hindi naman involved sa drugs talaga. Kasi EJK nung drug suspects yung first meetings ng Quad. Ito ngayon, ito yung mga sinabi ko na opposition leaders, anti-corruption general, di ba? Human rights defenders, lawyers, na dapat din imbestigahan ng Quad because they died in the same pattern. They died without justice then, or in the case of Senator De Lima, wala pang hustisya ang pagkakulong niya. And of course, ang mga witnesses doon marami din and I'm sure marami pang revelations kung sakaling buksan ng Quad Committee ang this vista opened by the revelations sa recent Quad hearings.
Okay, maraming salamat. Thanks for joining the StoryCon, human rights lawyer and former Congressman Neri Colmenares.
Thank you, sir.
Maraming
Thank you,
salamat
sir.
po. Thank you.
Salamat, Kong.
We need to take another breather. StoryCon will be right back.
This is the Story Conference Group or the StoryCon Group.
back to StoryCon. Let's bring in our second guest for today, OCTA President, Professor Ranjit Rye. Sir, magandang hapon and good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Yeah, good afternoon to all of you and to all our viewers.
Sir, ang pinakaabangan ng lahat, yung inyong mga quarterly, yung inyong mga quarterly zoom in doon sa BBM and Duterte support surveys. Sir, well, okay, we have kahit pa paano kasi we already seen the numbers. May upward trend with BBM up by 2 percentage points, downward trend with Duterte down by 1 percentage point. For independents, down by 5 percentage points. Opposition up by 2 percentage points, and so on the line. Pero sir, the qualifier being na all these are still within yung margin of error na 3 plus or minus 3 percentage points ng survey. But I think you also qualified na what's important to look at is the trend in the last 3 surveys more than the numbers themselves.
Yes, you're completely correct, Ed, no, that when we look at these numbers, it's important not just to focus on the final numbers, the quarter-to-quarter changes, but the trend. So for this particular probe, which is, by the way, for many people is highly controversial, no? But then again, because we don't have parties here, we're really trying just to measure, the strength of the brand, the preference of our kababayans. We also want to emphasize that the survey was done at a particular period po, no? Yan ay nakasaad naman dito na yung amin ay 1,200 respondents from all around the country from August 28 to September 2. So marami na nangyari since that time. And so for political pundits like Secretary Sisek, no? We'll probably have some other forecasts, no, based on these the data that we're showing. A second point we want to emphasize is that these numbers are not, when they compare it from quarter to quarter, mababa lang naman eh. They're very slight changes, no. I think notable here is the 2-point increase in for the president nationally, but then again it's supported by at the granular level by a 15-point increase in Class E, 15 percentage point increase in Class E. Now, when you look at the numbers of the Duterte family as a brand, it went down by only 1% nationally. But when you look at the granular level, they went down double digits, no, something like 11% sa Class E over the same period. These are dramatic. That's why you want to emphasize those points. But on the national level, they had ups and downs. The president and the administration, we also want to emphasize third point, the question in Filipinos, alin sa sumusunod ang pinaka naglalarawan ng sinusuporta ninyo sa politika? So yan yung basic question. And dahil wala tayong mga partido, ang unang category is I support President Bongbong Marcos Jr. and the administration. I am pro-Marcos. The next is I support the Duterte family and their political alliance. I am pro-Duterte. The third is, of course, I am the opposition. I support the opposition. We define the opposition here, also when you see it our own media brief, as the opposition associated with Leni Robredo,
yung traditional.
Teresa Ontiveros, the traditional opposition Liberal Party, and the movements, the Dilawan. So we explained this to the people we're interviewing, and they wanted to be categorized. Okay, and so when you look at the numbers of the opposition, they actually went up this quarter from 5 to 7. I know it's not dramatic, no? But the fact that it's moving up, it shows some sign of life and some sign of change, no? Even if it's within the margin of error. But when you look granular, they went up in ABC. They went up in NCR a little bit. So these are the things you want to emphasize. And then, of course, the trend is still continuous from the first, second, and third quarter. That a great number of Filipinos, something like 40%, would not like to be classified based on our classification. 31% are independents, and the rest refused, no? So they're ambivalent about...
Professor Rye, pag-usapan natin yung Class E na apparently doon significant yung baba ni Duterte at akyat ni Marcos. what should we read into this? We're talking about Class E. Ito yung masa. Ito talaga yung masa. Tumaas yung suporta ni Marcos doon sa masa.
Yes.
Would you hazard a guess why?
It's the contrast. No? So plus 15 yung pro Marcos sa Class E and minus 11 yung sa Duterte. No? So I think it has really to do with the interventions, the initiatives of the administration as far as their pro-poor programs. No? Kasi when I can't think of any significant intervention beyond that. They poured in billions in Mindanao and Visayas, where in Mindanao they sustained their support. In Visayas, they were able to even gain this quarter. And the news that I have, at least the information I have, is that a lot of resources were poured into ayuda, largely anti-poverty programs. So maybe that kicked in. It took in 2 quarters for people to see it, but it actually kicked in. Now, nationally, when you look at our probe on jobs and the economy, while it was on a downward trend for some time, it went up in the last quarter a little bit. So there was a little alleviation, and that's also somewhat reinforced by the fact that inflation also went down slightly over the last 2 quarters. So all of these things put together, maybe number one, government interventions. Number two, the massive information drive against the Duterte family, and all of these things that are happening. Congressman Neri Colmenares talked about a lot of them earlier. And third, the improving situation as far as inflation, jobs, are concerned. So, can the government, can the administration sustain this? We don't know. But what we can see from quarter to quarter is an upward trend. For the Duterte brand, it's on a downward trend, but the changes have been slight from second to the third quarter, just 1%.
Kayo lang ang gumagawa nito di ba? Nung ganitong klaseng survey. Ito yata yung ikatlo nyo na safe survey, di ba? Ikatlo ito. At ang interesado ako, paano kayo nagpasya na gumawa ng ganitong survey na hindi naman ginagawa dati? Hindi ginagawa dati at kahit ngayon, kayo lang ang gumagawa. Ikalawa, anong assessment nyo dito sa 3 survey na ginawa nyo? Pagpapatuloy nyo ba ito? Magiging ba to permanent aspect ng inyong mga surveys? At panghuli, anong relasyon nito dun sa mga ibang bahagi na inyong survey like approval rating? Dahil parang magkalayo sila no? Parang ano ba yan? Apples and oranges or talagang hindi pa napag-aaralan ng maigi yung kaibahan?
Unang-una, hindi to apples and oranges if you compare this with the trust and approval ratings. Where we have specific people with specific job classifications and jobs, maybe it's harder to compare, the work of, let's say, Jesus Escudero and the vice president, I mean, when you answer the survey, that's not how you answer it. But here it's very clear when you're given this question, sang grupo mas preferred ka. Now, ang challenge kasi sa OCTA is to come out with we're trying to evolve a political culture probe, and in our attempts to do so, we've hit a snag, the history of this survey was commissioned initially in the first quarter of this year, and we released it, and then some people said, why don't you test it, see if this survey means something. We don't expect that it will be relevant after the midterms. I think we're really releasing this as part of a broader probe on politics in our society, the state of preferences as far as our political landscape is concerned. So that's how it is, Sec Ronald. Ito yung ito yung nangyari so far. Ang assessment namin, may sumasagot may gusto magpa-classify. But yun nga, may marami rin nagsasabing, ayaw namin yung classification ninyo So then at 11%, yung iba naman sinasabi, basically ayaw nila yung classification ng Duterte Marcos at opposition. Yun ang 31% na nagsasabi, 26% na nagsasabi na independent sila. And that by itself is a position. And we in the report we also showed na actually sila ang pinakamalaking nalagasan in this particular survey. So some people have taken a side, and the two groups that benefited from independents taking a side, number one, the opposition, number two, the pro-Marcos. Yeah.
Professor, pahabol ko lang. Tinanong kita dati, you said you were going to conduct a survey para malaman kung alam ng mga tao kung ano ang trabaho ng mga senador in relation to your surveys on that so-called senatorial balls. Itutuloy niyo ba yon?
Yeah, we're still designing the question. Pero dahil malakas kayo sa amin, Mami, tutuloy namin yun. Kahit napakamahal, itanong yung tanong na yun. Pero,
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but it's awareness. Yeah.
Paano masasabi it is a trend kung within the margin of error yung difference, no? How can it be a trend? Usually kasi, ang nasa isip ko kasi, ang trend ay yung labas ng margin of error. No, di ba?
Yeah. Ang amin naman, ang amin argument dito is that for 3 quarters, for basically 2 straight quarters, pababa yung numbers. Now, while hindi nag-improve, at when you look at the granular level, significant yung mga changes sa lalo na Class E. So, one can argue that it has not improved. So, in our view, it's in a downward trend. Dalawa na kasing points pwede mo sabihin Now, when you look at the numbers from January, from the start of the year, you can see kaagad, from 20%, now it's 15%. Now, so that then you can say from the long view, it looks like it's on a downward trend. But we don't know. Next quarter, it could actually improve. 5 points na ang binaba since we started.
Yeah.
One can say it's improving. One can say it's an upward trend.
Okay.
But then again, we were very clear when you look at the base numbers, the actual national numbers, we're all within the margin of error. But we have to tell the story of the numbers at the regional and class level, and that's where the major changes were observed. 11-point decrease in Class E for those who identify themselves as pro-Duterte, and a 15-point increase in Class E for those who identify themselves as pro-Marcos.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
which solidifies our argument that there exists really a downward trend.
Okay, thank you for joining the StoryCon, Professor Ranjit Rye, President of OCTA Research.
Always a pleasure, sir.
Salamat po.
Thank you,
Salamat.
Professor.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Salamat, Prof.
Okay, thank you for joining STORYCON today. Amy Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Star, and Tito Ronald Llamas, our resident political pundit. And join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the STORYCON. Generic and Lingao.
I'm Patrick Paez, and we are One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the StoryCon Group.